اپنے کرم سے بخش دے میرے خدا مجھے اپنے کرم سے بخش دے میرے خدا مجھے.
بسم Allah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. A very warm welcome to all our viewers. Thank you for taking the time to come on this Wassiyyat forum, this live Wassiyyat forum, the first time hosted by Majlis Ansarullah UK. We will start with Tilawat, and I will request Tahir Mahmood Mubashir Sahib Murabbi Silsila to recite a portion of the Holy Quran with translation.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا يا أيها الذين آمنوا هل أدلكم على تجارة تنجيكم من عذاب أليم تؤمنون بالله ورسوله وتجاهدون في سبيل الله بأموالكم وأنفسكم ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون يغفر لكم ذنوبكم ويدخلكم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار ومساكن طيبة في جنات عدن ذلك الفوز العظيم وأخرى تحبونها نصر من الله وفتح قريب وبشر المؤمنين. The translation of these verses is as follows. O ye who believe, shall I point out to you a bargain that will save you from a painful punishment, that you believe in Allah and His Messenger and strive in the cause of Allah with your wealth and your persons. That is better for you if you did but know. He will forgive you your sins and make you enter the gardens through which streams flow, and pure and pleasant dwellings in gardens of eternity. That is the supreme triumph. And He will bestow another favor which you love, help from Allah, and a near victory. So give glad tidings to the believers.
Jazakallah Murabbi Sahib. For the benefit of the viewers, the agenda for this forum will be as follows. We will play a short clip in Urdu from Huzur's address to Majlis Ansarullah at the National Ijtima of 2009. This English address, there will be an English translation read out afterwards. Following this clip, there will be a short presentation in Urdu, followed by another short presentation in English. And then there will be a question and answer session faced by our distinguished panel, which consists of Sadr Majlis Ansarullah, Dr. Ijazur Rahman Sahib, Secretary Waqf No UK, Masood Ahmed Sahib, Murabbi Silsila and Qaid Tarbiyat Majlis Ansarullah, Maulana Fazl Rahman Sahib, and Murabbi Silsila, Maulana Tahir Mahmood Mubashir Sahib. For this section, we have already collected some questions in the lead up to this forum. However, there will be an opportunity for viewers to ask questions on the YouTube chat as well, and inshallah we'll pick those up. So without further ado, let's play the clip from our beloved Huzur's address from the Ansar Ijtima of 2009. This clip will be followed by an English translation read by Muzaffar Bhatti Sahib.
پھر ایک اہم بات دین کی خاطر مالی قربانیوں کی ہے. میں پہلے بھی اس طرف توجہ دلا چکا ہوں کہ انصار اللہ کی عمر میں ایک ایسا طبقہ بھی ہوتا ہے جو اپنی پیشہ ورانہ صلاحیتوں یا اپنے ہنر کے کمال کو پہنچ چکا ہوتا ہے. اسی طرح اپنی آمدنیوں کے بھی جو میکسیمم سکیل ہوتے ہیں تنخواہوں کے اجرتوں کے ان کو حاصل کر رہا ہوتا ہے. اس لیے اس وجہ سے جو آپ کی آمدنیوں میں ترقی ہے اس میں سے دین کا حق بھی اپنی قربانی کے معیاروں کو بلند کرتے ہوئے ادا کریں. ایک تو میں نے کہا تھا کہ صف دوم کے انصار جو ہیں وہ نظام وصیت میں شامل ہونے کی کوشش کریں. اگر تو صف دوم کے انصار نے اس طرح توجہ دی ہے اور ان کی اکثریت بلکہ اب صف دوم کے انصار کو تو 100% شامل ہونے کی کوشش کرنی چاہیے، یہ شامل ہو گئے ہیں یا اکثریت شامل ہو گئی ہے تو الحمدللہ. اور اگر کوئی مزید گنجائش ہے تو اسے بھی پورا کرنے کی کوشش کرنی چاہیے. اور یہ کوشش مجلس انصاراللہ کی سطح پر ہونی چاہیے. اگر وہ معیاری عمل نہیں کیے جن کی انصار اللہ سے توقع کی جاتی ہے تو تب بھی توجہ کرنی چاہیے. بعض لوگ کہہ دیتے ہیں ہمارے عمل ایسے ہیں کہ ہمیں وصیت کرتے ہوئے ڈر لگتا ہے. اگر عمل ایسے ہیں تب بھی وصیت کرنی چاہیے، کیونکہ ہو سکتا ہے کہ اللہ تعالیٰ اسی وجہ سے ایک نیکی کی روح ان میں پھونک دے. بلکہ وصیت کرنے کے بعد بہت سے لوگ ایسے ہیں جو مجھے لکھتے ہیں کہ ان کی خود بخود توجہ پیدا ہوتی چلی جا رہی ہے، جو اللہ تعالیٰ کا سے قرب کا تعلق حاصل کرنے کی وجہ بھی بن رہی ہے. دعاؤں کی طرف توجہ پیدا ہو رہی ہے، نمازوں کا حق ادا کرنے کی طرف توجہ پیدا ہو رہی ہے، قربانیوں کی طرف توجہ پیدا ہو رہی ہے. بہرحال یہ روحانی معیار پھر وصیت کرنے کی وجہ سے بلند ہوتے ہیں. 70-75 سال یا اس سے بڑی عمر کے انصار وصیت کرتے ہیں، وہ تو بے شک توجہ کرتے ہیں، اور اگر خاص حالات ہوں تو مرکز ان کی بعضوں کی وصیت منظور کرتا ہے اور بعضوں کی نہیں کرتا. لیکن صف دوم کے جو انصار ہیں ان کو خاص طور پر اس طرح توجہ کرنی چاہیے. پھر اسی طرح دوسری مالی تحریکات ہیں، ان کی طرف بھی توجہ دینے کی ضرورت ہے. اپنے نام کو دیکھیں کہ اللہ کے مددگار اور ناصر بننے کا اعلان کر رہے ہیں. پھر اپنی قربانیوں کو دیکھیں، خود اپنے جائزے لیں اور پھر اپنے دل سے فتویٰ لیں کہ کیا ہم انصار اللہ کا حق ادا کرنے انصار اللہ ہونے کا حق ادا کر رہے ہیں. اور جب خود اپنی سوچ کو اس نہج پر لائیں گے تو مجھے امید ہے انشاءاللہ تعالی ہر ایک کے اندر پاک تبدیلیوں اور قربانیوں کے معیار بڑھتے چلے جائیں گے. اور جب یہ بڑھیں گے تو یہی چیز ہے جو جماعت کی من حیث الجماعت روحانی بقا اور ترقی کے سامان کرتی.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I will read the English translation of the extract that you will listen from our beloved Hazur. Hazur says that I have previously reminded you about the importance of spending in the way of Allah. I have previously reminded you about the importance of spending in the way of Allah and for the sake of your faith. I have pointed out that in Ansarullah there are people who, due to their professional caliber, have become advanced in their expertise. Likewise, they're also meeting high earning thresholds within their respective earning scales. So when you see your earnings rise, remember to fulfill your responsibilities to your faith by increasing your standard of sacrifice too. One of the areas I've reminded that Safedom Ansar should try to join is the institution of Wassiyyat. If Safedom Ansar have already placed a focus on this, and the majority, rather 100% of Safedom Ansar have joined already, then it is very satisfying. But if there is still room to achieve, then a concerted effort is required in this regard. And this effort should be focused at Majlis Ansarullah level. If the high moral ideals that are expected from a Musi are not achieved in Ansarullah, then we should still focus on joining the institution of Wassiyyat. Some people assert that their deeds and actions are not of the standard required of Wassiyyat, and hence they are afraid to do Wassiyyat. Even if the deeds are not ideal, Wassiyyat should still be done, because it is quite possible that due to their actions, Allah Almighty may infuse a spiritual reform in them. In fact, after doing Wassiyyat, a lot of people write to me to say that they are automatically being inclined and it is becoming a means to seek nearness to Allah Almighty. They are focusing more on prayers and fulfilling their rites of worship and are becoming more inclined towards making sacrifices. Naturally, it is these kinds of spiritual endeavors which lead to a new height after doing Wassiyyat. When 70 to 75-year-old or even older Ansar aim for doing Wassiyyat, then based on their specific conditions, Markaz may accept in some cases, and in others, their Wassiyyat may not be accepted. But the Safedom Ansar should pay a particular focus in this regard. Then there are other financial sacrifices which should also be paid attention to. When you recognize your name as Ansarullah, the helpers of Allah, then you are automatically identifying yourself as a Nasir. Therefore, assess your level of sacrifices and look within yourself and seek analysis from your own hearts whether you are fulfilling your obligations necessary for being Ansarullah. And when you hone your thoughts in this direction and reach this point, then I'm hopeful that inshallah, the standards of each one of us will continue to progress spiritually, leading into a pure change within ourselves. And when these qualities grow and progress, then collectively, as a Jamaat, it is these qualities and virtues that result in the spiritual permanence and progress. Jazakumullah.
Jazakallah Muzaffar Saab. We now have a talk in Urdu on the subject of Wassiyyat, and I will request respected Fazlur Rahman Sahib, Murabbi Silsila, to give this talk.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Amma ba'du, fa'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. सैयदना हजरत अक़दस मसीह मऊद अलैहिस्सलाम की कुतब में रिसाला अल वसीयत को एक बुलंद मकाम और नुमायां हैसियत हासिल है। یہ کتاب دسمبر 1905 کی تصنیف ہے اور روحانی خزائن کی جلد نمبر 20 میں یہ شامل ہے۔ اس کتاب کی ابتدا میں آپ نے اپنی جماعت کو اپنی وفات کے قریب ہونے کے متعلق الہامات درج کیے اور فرمایا کہ میں نے مناسب سمجھا کہ اپنے دوستوں اور ان تمام لوگوں کے لیے جو میرے کلام سے فائدہ اٹھانا چاہیں چند نصائح لکھوں۔ اس رسالہ میں آپ نے جماعت میں نظام خلافت کے قیام کی بشارت دی اور اس کے ساتھ ہی نظام وصیت کا بھی ذکر فرمایا۔ ان دونوں نظاموں کا آپس میں نہایت گہرا تعلق ہے۔ چنانچہ ہمارے پیارے امام حضرت خلیفۃ المسیح الخامس ایدہ اللہ تعالی بنصرہ العزیز فرماتے ہیں، ہمارے تقوی کے معیار کو اونچا کرنے اور ہمیشہ جماعت میں اطاعت اور فرما برداری کی مثالیں قائم کرنے کا حضرت مسیح موعود علیہ الصلوۃ والسلام نے اپنے بعد ایک ایسا انتظام فرمایا جو نظام وصیت کے ذریعہ سے ہے، اور اس نظام وصیت اور اس نظام خلافت کے ساتھ ایک اور بھی نظام تھا، ایک تو فرما برداری اور اطاعت کا نظام، دوسرے خدا اور رسول کا پیغام پہنچانے کے لیے اور دکھی انسانیت کی خدمت کے لیے نظام وصیت کا اجرا۔ اور یہ جو وصیت کا نظام آپ نے جاری فرمایا تھا یہ اللہ تعالیٰ کے حکم کے مطابق تھا، اور اس نظام میں شامل ہونے والوں کے لیے آپ نے بے شمار دعائیں کی ہیں، اور اس نظام میں شامل ہونے والوں بلکہ جماعت کو تقوی پر قدم مارنے کی نصیحت کرتے ہوئے آپ رسالہ الوصیت میں فرماتے ہیں، خدا تعالیٰ نے مجھے مخاطب کر کے فرمایا ہے کہ تقوی ایک ایسا درخت ہے جس کو دل میں لگانا چاہیے، وہی پانی جس سے تقوی پرورش پاتی ہے تمام باغ کو سیراب کر دیتا ہے۔ تقوی ایک ایسی جڑ ہے کہ اگر وہ نہیں تو سب کچھ ہیچ ہے، اور اگر وہ باقی رہے تو سب کچھ باقی ہے۔ انسان کو اس فضولی سے کیا فائدہ جو زبان سے خدا طلبی کا دعویٰ کرتا ہے لیکن قدم صدق نہیں رکھتا۔ پھر فرمایا تمہیں خوشخبری ہو کہ قرب پانے کا میدان خالی ہے، ہر ایک قوم دنیا سے پیار کر رہی ہے، اور وہ بات جس سے خدا راضی ہو اس کی طرف دنیا کو توجہ نہیں۔ وہ لوگ جو پورے زور سے اس دروازہ میں داخل ہونا چاہتے ہیں ان کے لیے موقع ہے کہ اپنے جوہر دکھلائیں اور خدا سے خاص انعام پائیں۔ حضرت اقدس مسیح موعود علیہ السلام نے تحریر فرمایا، ایک جگہ مجھے دکھائی گئی اور اس کا نام بہشتی مقبرہ رکھا گیا۔ فرمایا ظاہر کیا گیا ہے کہ وہ ان برگزیدہ جماعت کے لوگوں کی قبریں ہیں جو بہشتی ہیں۔ پھر فرمایا میں دعا کرتا ہوں کہ خدا اس میں برکت دے اور اسی کو بہشتی مقبرہ بنا دے، اور یہ اس جماعت کے پاک دل لوگوں کی خوابگاہ ہو جنہوں نے در حقیقت دین کو دنیا پر مقدم کر لیا اور دنیا کی محبت چھوڑ دی اور خدا کے لیے ہو گئے اور پاک تبدیلی اپنے اندر پیدا کر لی اور رسول اللہ صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم کے اصحاب کی طرح وفاداری اور صدق کا نمونہ دکھلایا۔ آمین یا رب العالمین۔ آپ نے ایک بار پھر دعا کرتے ہوئے تحریر فرمایا، میں پھر دعا کرتا ہوں کہ اے میرے قادر خدا، اس زمین کو میری جماعت میں سے ان پاک دلوں کی قبریں بنا جو فی الواقعہ تیرے لیے ہو چکے اور دنیا کی اغراض کی ملونی ان کے کاروبار میں نہیں۔ آمین یا رب العالمین۔ آپ نے پھر تیسری دفعہ دعا کرتے ہوئے تحریر فرمایا، میں پھر تیسری دفعہ دعا کرتا ہوں کہ اے میرے قادر کریم، اے خدائے غفور و رحیم، تو صرف ان لوگوں کو اس جگہ قبروں کی جگہ دے جو تیرے اس فرستادہ پر سچا ایمان رکھتے ہیں اور کوئی نفاق اور غرض نفسانی اور بدظنی اپنے اندر نہیں رکھتے، اور جیسا کہ حق ایمان اور اطاعت کا ہے بجا لاتے ہیں، اور تیرے لیے اور تیری راہ میں اپنے دلوں میں جان فدا کر چکے ہیں، جن سے تو راضی ہے اور جن کو تو جانتا ہے کہ بکلی تیری محبت میں کھوئے گئے اور تیرے فرستادہ سے وفاداری اور پورے ادب اور انشراحی ایمان کے ساتھ محبت اور جان فشانی کا تعلق رکھتے ہیں۔ آمین یا رب العالمین۔ آپ نے اس مقدس قبرستان بہشتی مقبرہ میں تدفین کے لیے 3 بنیادی شرائط مقرر فرمائیں۔ نمبر 1، شرط اول کے طور پر کچھ مالی ادائیگی جو گویا انفاق فی سبیل اللہ کا فوری اور پہلا زینہ ہے۔ نمبر 2، اپنی آمدنی اور ترکہ کے 10ویں حصہ کی ادائیگی کی وصیت جو انفاق فی سبیل اللہ کا ایک امتیازی زینہ ہے۔ نمبر 3، تیسری شرط یہ بیان فرمائی کہ دفن ہونے والا متقی ہو اور محرمات سے پرہیز کرتا اور کوئی شرک اور بدعت کا کام نہ کرتا ہو، سچا اور صاف مسلمان ہو۔ یہ شرط سب سے اہم اور موسی کی ساری زندگی سے تعلق رکھتی ہے۔ پھر فرمایا یہ مت خیال کرو کہ یہ صرف دور از قیاس باتیں ہیں، یہ اس قادر کا ارادہ ہے جو زمین و آسمان کا بادشاہ ہے۔ نیز فرمایا اس وصیت کے لکھنے میں جس کا مال دائمی مدد دینے والا ہوگا اس کا دائمی ثواب ہوگا اور خیرات جاریہ کے حکم میں ہوگا۔ نیز فرمایا خدا تعالیٰ کا ارادہ ہے کہ ایسے کامل الایمان ایک ہی جگہ دفن ہوں تا آئندہ کی نسلیں ایک ہی جگہ ان کو دیکھ کر اپنا ایمان تازہ کریں، اور تا ان کے کارنامے یعنی جو خدا کے لیے انہوں نے دینی کام کیے ہمیشہ کے لیے قوم پر ظاہر ہوں۔ حضرت مسیح موعود علیہ السلام کا ایک اور نہایت ہی پیارا دعائیہ فکرہ اس طرح اس کتاب میں درج ہے۔ آپ نے تحریر فرمایا بالآخر ہم دعا کرتے ہیں کہ خدا تعالیٰ اس کام میں ہر ایک مخلص کو مدد دے اور ایمانی جوش ان میں پیدا کرے اور ان کا خاتمہ بالخیر کرے، آمین۔ نیز فرمایا کوئی نادان اس قبرستان اور اس کے انتظام کو بدعت میں داخل نہ سمجھے، کیونکہ یہ انتظام حسب وحی الہی ہے اور انسان کا اس میں دخل نہیں۔ اور شرائط تدفین کے بارے میں فرمایا ضروری ہوگا کہ ایسا وصیت کرنے والا جہاں تک اس کے لیے ممکن ہے پابند احکام اسلام ہو اور تقوی اور طہارت کے امور میں کوشش کرنے والا ہو اور مسلمان، خدا کو ایک جاننے والا اور اس کے رسول پر سچا ایمان لانے والا ہو اور نیز حقوق عباد غصب کرنے والا نہ ہو۔ نظام وصیت کے ذریعہ جمع ہونے والے اموال کے مصرف کا ذکر فرماتے ہوئے لکھا انجمن جس کے ہاتھ میں ایسا روپیہ ہوگا اس کو اختیار نہیں ہوگا کہ بجز اغراض سلسلہ احمدیہ کے کسی اور جگہ وہ روپیہ خرچ کرے، اور ان اغراض میں سے سب سے مقدم اشاعت اسلام ہوگی۔ نظام وصیت کے سلسلہ میں یہ فکرہ بھی خاص توجہ کے لائق ہے۔ آپ نے تحریر فرمایا اگر کوئی شخص خدا تعالیٰ کی خاص وحی سے رد کیا جائے تو گو وہ وصیتی مال بھی پیش کرے تاہم اس قبرستان میں داخل نہیں ہوگا۔ پھر فرمایا اور ہم محسوس کرتے ہیں کہ جو لوگ اس الہی انتظام پر اطلاع پا کر بلا توقف اس فکر میں پڑتے ہیں کہ 10واں حصہ کل جائیداد کا خدا کی راہ میں دیں بلکہ اس سے زیادہ جوش رکھتے ہیں، وہ اپنی ایمانداری پر مہر لگا دیتے ہیں۔ نیز ایک اور پیرائے میں حضور نے جماعت کو توجہ دلاتے ہوئے فرمایا کہ اللہ تعالیٰ ہر ایک زمانہ میں چاہتا ہے کہ خبیث اور طیب میں فرق کر کے دکھلاوے، اس لیے اب بھی اس نے ایسا ہی کیا۔ حضرت مسیح موعود علیہ السلام نے اس بابرکت نظام وصیت میں شمولیت کے بارے میں بار بار تاکید دی، نصیحت فرمائی۔ ایک موقع پر فرمایا ہم خود محسوس کرتے ہیں کہ اس وقت کے امتحان سے بھی اعلیٰ درجہ کے مخلص جنہوں نے در حقیقت دین کو دنیا پر مقدم کیا ہے دوسرے لوگوں سے ممتاز ہو جائیں گے اور ثابت ہو جائے گا کہ بیعت کا اقرار انہوں نے پورا کر کے دکھلا دیا اور اپنا صدق ظاہر کر دیا۔ بے شک یہ انتظام منافقوں پر بہت گران گزرے گا اور اس سے ان کی پردہ دری ہوگی، اور وہ مخلص جو امام الزمان حضرت مسیح موعود علیہ السلام کی اس آواز پر لبیک کہتے ہوئے اس نظام وصیت میں شامل ہو جائیں گے ان کو کیا کیا انعامات ملیں گے۔ اس سلسلہ میں فرمایا اس کام میں سبقت دکھلانے والے راست بازوں میں شمار کیے جائیں گے۔ فرمایا اس کام میں سبقت دکھلانے والے راست بازوں میں شمار کیے جائیں گے اور ابد تک خدا تعالیٰ کی ان پر رحمتیں ہوں گی۔ اور اس میں شامل نہ ہونے والوں کے بارے میں فرمایا کہ بہترے ایسے ہیں कि वो दुनिया से मोहब्बत करके मेरे हुक्म को टाल देंगे, मगर बहुत जल्द दुनिया से जुदा किए जाएंगे, तब आखिरी वक्त में कहेंगे हाजा मा वअदर रहमानो व सदकल मुरसलून वस्सलामु अला मन इत्तबअल हुदा अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मदिन व अला आलि मुहम्मदिन व बारिक व सल्लिम इन्नका हमीदुम मजीद। अल्लाह ताला हमें हज़रत अक़दस मसीह मऊद अलैहिस्सलाम की इन नसाए पर अमल करते हुए ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा अंसार को निज़ाम वसीयत में शामिल होने की तौफीक दे, और जो शामिल हैं उनको इसकी शराइत पूरा करने की तौफीक अता फरमाए।
Jazakallah Murabi Saab. Thank you very much for a very enlightening and inspirational talk. There will now be an English presentation, and that presentation will be given by myself. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I have to say at the outset that this is a very big topic, and I cannot do it full justice in the 10 or so minutes that have been allocated. However, I will endeavor to outline the main points. Towards the end of the 19th century, at a time when Islam was in general decline, having deviated from the path as laid out by the Holy Prophet of Islam, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian announced under divine guidance from Allah the Almighty that he was the prophesied Mahdi and Messiah for not only Islam, but for all the divinely established religions. And just to clarify this matter further, the promised Messiah was a prophet of God and a servant of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is, he came under the auspices of the Prophet of Islam and was subservient to him. His mission was to re-establish the true teachings of Islam as laid out 1400 years ago. As a result of his proclamation, the Ahmadiyya Jamaat was established and grew and flourished. And we all know very well the results of this worldwide phenomenon, which is Jamaat Ahmadiyya. In 1905, Allah revealed to the Prophet ﷺ that his time on earth was drawing to a close. This was naturally a cause of anxiety and trepidation for the promised Messiah, not for his own sake, but rather he felt that his work was not yet complete. And then Allah revealed to the Prophet Messiah the contents of which were outlined in Al-Wassiyyat. Al-Wassiyyat, or in English, the will, was a booklet of approximately 40 pages published on the 24th of December 1905. Within this book, the Prophet ﷺ reiterated some of his claims and writes that Allah revealed to him that his mission will be completely successful, that after his passing, a system of Khilafat will be established, and that a financial system based on extraordinary financial sacrifices will be established that will serve not only Jamaat Ahmadiyya, but the world. When the system of Wassiyyat attains maturity, so the Prophet Messiah went to outline in Al-Wassiyyat the details of Bahishti Maqbara as well, or the heavenly graveyard, in which those members that subscribe to the institution of Wassiyyat and become a Musi are to be buried in this special graveyard and vouchsafed paradise. The Prophet ﷺ ends this booklet by praying for those members that heed his call in this regard. The Prophet Messiah writes, I was shown a place that was named Bahishti Maqbara, and it was conveyed to me that it contained the graves of such righteous members of the Jamaat as are destined to dwell in heaven. Since then, I have always been concerned that a piece of land should be bought for the purposes of the graveyard. And I pray that God may bless it and make this very piece of land the Bahishti Maqbara, and make it the resting place of such members of the Jamaat as are pure of heart and who have in reality given precedence to faith over the world, and who have renounced the love of the world and have submitted themselves to God and have brought about in themselves a holy change, and like the companions of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam have set the example of faithfulness and truthfulness. Ameen, O Lord of the world. Lack of time does not permit me to read further. However, the promised Messiah goes on to pray 2 more times specifically for the Musiyan. What an astounding and precious gift to be the direct recipient of the prayers of the Prophet of God is priceless. The Khulafa have spoken extensively about Wassiyyat, but due to the lack of time, I can only share a few extracts here. In his landmark lecture of Nizam-e-Naw, or the New World Order of Islam, Hazrat Khalifa Masih II Radhiyallahu Ta'ala Anhu outlined in detail the new spiritual order brought about by the Prophet Messiah in the form of Wassiyyat. Huzur wrote, "The time will soon come when the world will cry out for a new order. From every quarter, voices shall be raised announcing new order. However, the new order has already been set out in Al-Wassiyyat. If the world desires to proceed along the path of peace and prosperity, the only way to it is to put into effect the new order set out in Al-Wassiyyat." Huzur goes on to write, "When the system of Wassiyyat attains maturity, it will provide not only for missionary work, but will also help to abolish need and suffering by making adequate provision for the needs of individuals as told by Islam. No orphan shall have to beg, nor shall a widow have to ask for charity, nor shall a needy person suffer anxiety, because the system of Wassiyyat will be the mother to children, a father to youth, and a source of security for women. A brother will help another willingly and with love and without any coercion, nor will he go unrewarded, for he shall receive the best reward from Allah. Neither the rich nor the poor shall be the loser. No nation shall fight another, and its blessing shall encompass the whole world." Hazrat Amir al-Mu'mineen, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad stated when addressing Majlis Ansarullah, "Therefore seek the ways of pleasing God, and in this age, one of these ways is joining the institution of Wassiyyat. Hence, you should hasten towards it. Also, the institution of Wassiyyat has a deep affinity with the institution of Khilafat." Huzur continues by saying, "May Allah enable all of you to be obedient to Khilafat and to enter into the institution of Wassiyyat, so that both you and your progeny will continue to reap Allah's blessing and enter the paradise of His pleasure." On another occasion, Huzur stated, "The first point I wish to stress is that all office bearers should become part of the system of Wassiyyat, starting from the National Amla to the lowest level. Only then will they be able to exhort other members of the Jamaat." On yet another occasion, Huzur stated, "I've expressed my desire that among the earning and Jannah paying members in every Jamaat, there should be at least 50% who have become part of this great institution of the promised Messiah." So what does it take to become a Musi? There are 3 main conditions, and I'll outline them briefly. Number 1, that whoever desires to be buried in Bahishti Maqbara should contribute towards its maintenance according to their capacity. On this point in the UK, there is a nominal fee of around £10 for this. Number 2, only that person will be buried in this graveyard that makes a testamentary disposition or a will that 1/10 of their property will be devoted to Jamaat Ahmadiyya and the propagation of Islam and carrying out the teachings of the Quran. On this point, normally an earning Ahmadi member pays 1/16 of their income as Chanda Aam. When a person becomes a Musi, they do not pay Chanda Aam, but pay Hissa Ahmad, which has a minimum rate of 1/10 of their income. As a working example, an Ahmadi will pay £62.50 Chanda Aam based on £1,000 of monthly income. Instead, for Wassiyyat, they will now pay £100. For Ahmadis used to participating in the financial sacrifices of the Jamaat, this is manageable. After the demise of a Musi, whatever they have left after paying off loans and mortgages, etc., at least 1/10 of that goes to the Jamaat and is known as Hissa Jaidad. However, if someone wants to pay Hissa Jaidad during their lifetime, then they pay Hissa Jaidad on the valuation of their assets. Number 3, that every such person shall lead a righteous life and abstain from all that is prohibited, and shall not do anything that amounts to the association of something with Allah. He should be a true and sincere Muslim. On this point, bear in mind that our 10 conditions of Ba'ath and schemes like Tehreek-e-Jadid compel us to be a true and sincere Muslim already. So what have we picked up so far about Wassiyyat? Wassiyyat is a divinely guided institution laid out by a prophet of God. A path to paradise is promised if properly followed. Hazrat Muslim Maud Razillah Ta'ala has called it the New World Order and is in place to save the world. Hazrat Khalifatul Masih al-Khamis has likened obedience to Khilafat with becoming a Musi. The step from Chanda Am to Wassiyyat Hissa Ahmad is a manageable sacrifice for most Ahmadis already used to sacrificing financially. The Hissa Jadad strengthens one's children's attachment to Khilafat as they share their inheritance with the Jamaat. And all Ahmadis endeavor to be a true Muslim and sincere Muslim upon Ba'ath. Wassiyyat reinforces this. So, with all these points considered, I would say most non-Musis members are already virtually at the stage of becoming a Musi. A lot of the boxes have already been ticked, but yet there is a hesitation to sign on the dotted line. So the question arises, what are you waiting for? And if not now, when? And when will the response of, I am still deciding, change to, Alhamdulillah, I have already joined? To help you towards your decision, some useful resources have been made available on the ansar.org.uk website. There is a Wassiyyat section under Resource Center in which there are some PDF documents, including Al-Wassiyyat in Urdu and English. The Wassiyyat form will also be made available here, along with any further updated material as they become available. Similarly, under the Publications tab, there is another Wassiyyat section in which some links to audio and video material is listed. The decision to join the institution of Wassiyyat is yours to make. But remember, especially my Ansar brothers, that you are not getting any younger. And as we promise in our Ansar pledge, to not hesitate to offer any sacrifice for the institution of Khilafat, we must strongly reflect as to what it means to make this sacrifice. I will finish by sharing the closing remarks of the Prophet ﷺ from the appendix to Al-Wassiyyat. The Prophet ﷺ writes, "There are many who, for their love of the world, shall evade my command, but shall soon be taken away from this world. Then, at that last hour, they shall exclaim, 'This is what the gracious God had promised, and the messengers spoke the truth.'" Jazakallah for your time in listening to this presentation. We will now move on to the question and answer section of this forum. And as a quick reminder, we have already collected some questions in the run-up to this forum. However, if members wish to type in their questions, they can do so on the YouTube chat forum. We will inshallah pick that up and hopefully have a chance to answer them as well. Jazakallah, distinguished panel, for your patience. We will start with the first question, which I will put to Tahir Mahmood Mubashir Saab, Murabbi Silsila. Murabbi Saab, the question is there a minimum and maximum age for becoming a Musi?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Jazakallah for asking the question regarding the age limit for a Musi. See, the simple question is the age limit, and the simple answer, it is obviously that there's an age limit which is mentioned in the Al-Wassiyyat by the Prophet Messiah ﷺ and explained by qualified at different occasions. But let me say some words regarding the importance of this issue. As you know, that this is a divine screen revealed at the heart of the Prophet Messiah ﷺ for a great cause, that is to preach and propagate the true message of Godhead, of Godhood, greatness of his Prophet ﷺ, and his book and the Holy Quran, under the guidance of the Prophet Muhammad and his heavenly inspired qualified Islam by the righteous member of his community. The secondly, the Bahishti Maqbara is a place of gathering of those pure souls who selflessly serve for this cause at their utmost throughout their lives, contributing by their financial sacrifices as well as all their strength and abilities. In this scenario, one of the conditions mentioned in the attachment with Al-Wassiyyat, as number 4, it states that no immature child is allowed to enter in this divine scheme and have no right to bury in this graveyard, because under the statement of under the statement of one of the hadiths states that these kind of innocent or immature ones are already bahishti in the sight of Allah the Almighty, that he may enter expectedly, he may enter into paradise. So this is the wording of the Prophet Muhammad, which is stated in the Risala al-Wassiyyat. So as the fact is that they can't fulfill their duties in any contribution being dependent to others. So the first part of this question is the minimum age limit. It means when you have full strength, understand that you are doing your best, you're doing good, and it is the age of maturity. On the other hand, the maximum age limit for a Musi is also clarified by the writing of Prophet Muhammad, that is, the Musi is bound to perform his duties intellectually or other abilities within full of his senses. In Bakaimi Hoshawa, this is a wording of Prophet Muhammad, and must not go beyond this limit or waiting for his approaching his death, which is very near, when actually one desires to dedicate all his wealth, movable or immovable, to get rid against any kind of circumstances or bad or some sort of these happenings in the hereafter. So it is clear that the true age limit, to the far extent, to the maximum age limit, is that when one have a lot of opportunities to spend his wealth willingly for a certain period. At the last, in this question, I would say that, further say that at one of the class with Atfal Anbiya, our beloved Imam Hazrat Khalifatul Masih, the 5th, may Allah be his helper, said that at the age of 15, a tifl must start to read the book Al-Wassiyyat and then enter in this heavenly scheme after that, without any waiting. But it must be renewed at the age of 18 with a firm resolution. So the age limit starting at the when a child, when tifl enters into the Qudam age and its maturity, and the last age, the last limit age when to enter in this system is when you are Bakaimi Hoshawas, you are in full in your senses and you have good opportunities to do more sacrifices financially and all kind of your abilities to serve in this cause. So this is the limits prescribed by the Prophet Muhammad and his Khulafa. But I think it's enough to answer this question.
Jazakallah, Murabi Sahab. Respected Sir Sahab, I'll turn to you for the next question. It's a short question, but there's a lot. I'm sure there's a lot behind it. What is considered as an asset in Wassiyyat?
Jazakallah Fahim Sahab. I think the question is short, but possibly a little vague as well. So if we are doing Wassiyyat or joining this blessed scheme of Wassiyyat in terms of assets, if the question is that whether your car counts as an asset, whether the watch that you own counts as an asset, that is not the case. The asset at time of your death would mean any of your estate, taking out your liabilities and whatever is left. So for example, if I have got a house and I pass away, if there is mortgage on the house, whatever amount is left after paying the mortgage would be counted as my asset. Similarly, any other property that I may have would be counted as an asset. Any other things which are known as movable in normal terms are not counted as an asset in terms of calculating the Wassiyyat.
Jazakumullah. Murshid Sahab, I'll go to you for the next question. This is another technical question, I guess. The question is, if a Musi owns a property, for example, a house, which he has rented out to someone, does he need to pay Hissa Ahmad on income coming in as rent on that house?
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah for the question, Jazakallah for the opportunity for you. So yes, so the answer is actually quite simple on this. If you have any form of income, including that from your property that you've rented out, you pay Wassiyyat on that, but you pay at the slightly reduced rate, which is the Janda Am rate, which is 1/16. Normal Hissa Ahmad is 1/10, but rental income is charged at 1/16, but you still do have to pay it.
Okay, Jazakallah, very clear. Fazl Sahab, I'll turn to you for the next question. The question is, what is the procedure for paying Hissa Jaidad after the demise of a Musi?
अस्सलाम वालेकुम warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. इसके साथ मैं इतना जरूर कहूँगा कि सबसे बेहतर तो ये है कि इंसान अपनी ज़िंदगी में ही हिस्सा जायदाद अदा करे, और उसका तरीका ये है कि जो भी उसकी जायदाद है उसके बारे में जमात को लिखे कि ये मेरी जायदाद है, उसके लिए जो भी रिक्वायरमेंट होगी, एड्रेस होगा, आपसे पूछेंगे कहाँ आपकी जायदाद है, तो फिर उसकी एक तशखीस होती है। जमात अपने निज़ाम के तहत उस जायदाद के बारे में अंदाज़ा लगाती है कि इस जायदाद की इतनी कीमत है, और मुसी को बता देती है कि ये आपका की जायदाद की इतनी कीमत बनती है और इसका 1/10 आपने अदा करना है। तो फिर आगे हस्बे इस्तिताअत बाज़ लोग तो फौरी अदा कर देते हैं, लेकिन निज़ाम जमात से इजाज़त भी ली जा सकती है कि मैं 1 साल के अंदर या 2 साल के अंदर, जो भी लिमिट जमात आपको इजाज़त दे, आप उतने अरसे में अपनी जो वसीयत है वो अदा कर दें। तो लेकिन खुदा ना खास्ता अगर कोई ऐसी सूरत बनती है कि आप अपनी ज़िंदगी में अपना हिस्सा जायदाद अदा नहीं कर सके, तो वफात के वक्त जमात की तरफ से या निज़ाम जो भी करंट जमात जिसमें आप शामिल हैं और फिर जो मरकज़ी निज़ाम है, वो दोनों जो आपके जो वफात याफ्ता मुसी है उसके रिश्तेदारों को कहते हैं कि आप इसके अदायगी का फौरी इंतज़ाम करें। और मेरे जो इल्म में है अक्सरियत ऐसी है जो रिश्तेदार जो हैं, बच्चे हैं, अक्सर फौरी अदा करके तो उस मुसी के लिए एक आखिरत के लिहाज से एक अच्छा अल्लाह ताला के हुजूर उसकी मग़फ़िरत का इंतज़ाम कर देते हैं। लेकिन ये भी सूरत हो सकती है कि बाज़ सूरतों में फौरी तौर पर रिश्तेदार अदा ना कर सकते हों, तो फिर कोई ना कोई उसके रिश्तेदारों में से या जमात के मेंबरान में से जिम्मेदारी लेता है कि मैं इस शख्स की जो भी हिस्सा जायदाद या इसके जिम्मे जो भी बकाया है वो मैं अदा कर दूंगा, और इस जमानत पर फिर उसको तदफीन की इजाज़त मिल जाती है।
Jazakallah Murabi Saab, thank you so much for an answer to a very important question. It is on many people's minds.
मैं थोड़ी सी ये फ़हीम साहब, मैं इस तरफ ये कहूँगा कि बाज़ औक़ात क्योंकि मेरा ज़्यादा वो जो है बैकग्राउंड पाकिस्तान की है, अगर हमारे जो मौजूदा सदर साहब हैं या मसरूर साहब जो यूके में हैं, अगर उस निज़ाम के में कोई हमारे सवाल के जवाब में कोई मज़ीद इजाफा करना चाहें तो मैं ज़रूर उनसे दरख्वास्त करूँगा कि वो
Jazakallah Murabi Saab, I would certainly like to add, I think it is an extremely important question which is on minds of most of the people living in the Western world when they want to do Wassiyyat, that what would happen once I die. Majority of people have got a mortgage on the house, and the mortgage is not or may not be paid off, and very few people in this Western world would have the lump sum amount of money because the property goes up. And therefore they would think that if we would be forced once I die and the Jamaat will take us to court or, forcibly, my children may become homeless. And that stops people from joining this blessed scheme. So I think what happens is exactly what Murabbi Saab has said first. So the first thing is that if anybody is worried, if they are able to, they try paying their Wassiyyat on getting the house assessed, and you are able to pay within 3 years time the whatever the assessment is, and the money within your lifetime. So that is the ideal scenario. And a supplementary question which may come at this time is that I may change my house. So if I have paid Wassiyyat on my house and then I buy another house, what would happen? The issue is once you get your once property cleared up, that money is then cleared. And if you buy a second property, you can use that as an equity. In other words, in terms of Wassiyyat, that the next house, X amount of money would be exempt from Wassiyyat because that is already paid. I have not known up till now, I've lived in Pakistan, I've lived in UK, of Jamaat ever taking anybody's family to court to regain the money of Wassiyyat. So I think the worry that people have that my children will become homeless or will be on the street because suddenly things will be taken away from them is not correct. So that Jamaat does not enforce that at all. It is entirely up to the individual and their family. Jamaat does take word and assurances from the family members. It can allow them to pay a number of years as well. But regardless, as I said, I have not known of cases which have gone to court. The Jamaat has gone to court to collect that. So I think this should not be a source of worry for people.
Jazakallah, Sadr Sahib. Following on in the vein of financial questions, most of these are financial questions. This one is, Sadr Sahib, I'll come to you again on this. How should some big loans, such as a mortgage or car finance, be adjusted in annual or monthly income in relation to Wassiyyat?
As I said, I think the first thing I want to point out, I think I should have mentioned that in the beginning as well. This is something which we do voluntarily. This is what we are sacrificing in the way of Allah. It is not income tax. So it is the income that I believe my income to be, which I should declare, and that is not questioned by Nizam-e Wassiyyat or the Markaz at all. Every year you get something, a form to fill in. They ask, this is the amount of money that you have paid. Is that the correct amount of money that your income and the money that you needed to pay? And you sign it, and that's the end of it. In terms of answer to the question on what is income, what is counted as an income, the definition is the same which is for Chandai Aam. So you would take out any compulsory income tax, you would take out any compulsory insurance, any compulsory things which go out like council tax. Loans are not taken out of normal income when we count as income in the Jamaat as well. So unless you're talking of a business loan or of something which you take for business, because I think when you ask these financial questions, one is category which is related to my income and my home, but then there are businessmen who have got business properties, they've got investments in mills or other things, and they are paying loans. Those will come out, but in terms of personal loans, my income will be counted with them in it.
Jazakumullah. Mashur Saab, I'll come to you for this next question. It's on property. How should the value of shared property with siblings or other relatives be assessed to put on the Wassiyyat form?
So it should be assessed according to your share. And the share, the way that we assess it is through Sharia. So the simple thing here is, so there's a law of a land, and then there's how property is assessed. The way that we consider a property bought is by the person who's actually paying for it. So in the UK, for example, most people have a joint mortgage themselves, and their wife will have that joint mortgage. But if it's the husband that's working, when we assess Wassiyyat, it's his property, and his wife has only got 1/8 of it as and when he passes away. So if you've inherited a property, then you pay according to Shara as such. So your inheritance according to Islam is what you'd pay your Wassiyyat on. If you've actually bought a property with your brothers and sisters and you've actually put money into that property, then you're assessed on that portion, okay, so that percentage. If you're listed on a house and you haven't actually paid into that house to purchase that house, nor are you paying the mortgage, nor are you responsible for any of the finances on the house, then you don't actually have any Wassiyyat to pay on that property.
Okay, Jazakallah. I'm going to pick up a slightly related question that's coming on the YouTube chat. So the question is, what about land? We have talked about houses. What about land and animals is the question. Masroor Saab, can you? Yeah,
so it's the same. Land and animals, gold, shares, it's all the same. You're paying your Wassiyyat on your assets, and they're all termed and classed as your assets. And they have, there's a rate of Wassiyyat to pay on it. So it's what, as Sadr Saab said, it's what you leave behind. If you think of it in that way, and that's an asset, then you'll be paying Wassiyyat on it. And that's the sacrifice that you're making. That's the promise that you're making to yourself and to Khuda. That the assets I have, I will leave 1/10 of them, up to 1/3, I think it is, to the Jamaat. And it's an asset, and but as Sadr Saab said, it's a voluntary thing, and it's about how there's no hiding place, right? There's no hiding place from Allah. So if you know that you have an asset and you want to enter into this voluntarily, then you're paying money on that. You're paying Wassiyyat on that asset.
Okay, good. Jazakallah. Thank you so much. The next question, I will go to Murabi Silsila Sahib Tahir Mahmood Mubashir Sahib. The question is, and this is another fairly common comment from non-Musian: I do not think I'm pious enough that I can do Wassiyyat, as I do not fill all the conditions. What should be the response to this?
Jazakallah again to give me an opportunity to say something regarding this issue. See, there's a question most often raises in some minds, but it is only lack of due consideration or comprehension to the matter, which naturally results in some kind of not due importance of the issue. So actually, in the fact or the truth, it's not a question but an assumption. See, the fact is that the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned this issue very clearly in the Wassiyyat and other occasion, and the basic principle or the true reason behind this heavenly injunction of the Wassiyyat is only that Allah the Almighty wants to make a clear distinction between the true and the faithful servant of his Jamaat against those who have nominally entered into the fold of his Jamaat through the pledge of the Bai'at and don't want to strengthen their ties and relations with Allah the Almighty, his Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his dispensation, and also don't want to fulfill their duties in this regard. The Prophet ﷺ states in the Wassiyyat that the true followers always have to face trials and hardships and judged by his actions and deeds. At the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the followers were also judged and faced by trials, and it is a chronic injunction that ahasiban nasu an yutraku an yaqulu amanna wa hum la yuftanun, Ankabut verse number 3. So the followers of the Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ made their pledge on the cost of their souls, and not only financial sacrifices, and the pledge of theirs was a higher in rank against any other sacrifices. So they remained steadfast and fulfilled their oaths. The very next day, when they entered into the fold of Islam. They were not saint or purified ones, or at a very best in normal or good characters. So the same situation applies in this matter. It was the guidance and the kind attention of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam which changed them altogether as a devoted followers. My dear brothers, the Holy Quran says, "Dhalikal kitabu la rayba fihi hudan lil muttaqin." And also it says, the Holy Quran says, in An-Kabut, verse number 70, that "Wallazina jahadu fina lanahdiyannahum subalana." It means that the righteous are not those who have already got their excellences, but are those who have just started their journey towards it, or act upon the guidance of this book, and who have just starting to strive in our way for our cause, and they will then get their reward if they would remain steadfast in their cause, in this cause. And the Prophet ﷺ also makes it clear in the Wassiyyat that what kind of qualities should have an Ahmadi at the time to enter or join this divine scheme. He says that an Ahmadi should obey all commandments of Islam and ever ready to improve his divine abilities to their heights at his best and strengthen his ties with God and his Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam after entering in this heavenly scheme. So it is only an assumption that we are not pious enough to enter this scheme. If not, then how can we fully comply with the basic teachings described in our teaching, the Kashtinum, which is an essential and basic step towards the righteousness which is incumbent for an Ahmadi. So the Ahmadi, the one who says that it's very hard to enter in this scheme, it's only his guess, it's only his assumption, not fair, have no standing. If he started to enter in this scheme, Allah the Almighty will enable him to go to start his way to the righteousness, and he will at the last, by the grace of Allah, by his favor, will enter in the Bahishti Maqbara, which is expected that he will enter in the Bahishti Maqbara. As the Prophet ﷺ says that this land is not Bahishti, but only the favor, only the blessing makes a person of Bahishti. The Holy Prophet ﷺ also says that only the grace and only the favor and the bestowing of the Holy Prophet of the Allah the Almighty enable me to enter the heaven. So this assumption have no standing altogether, and we should comply, and we should study, and we should have to comprehend the teaching of the Prophet ﷺ and the book Al-Wassiyyat. Then we can understand what is the true message.
Jazakallah Rabbi Sahib. I will now go to Reverend Rabbi Sahib, Rabbi Fazlur Rahman Sahib. Rabbi Sahib, the question is it permissible to make wasiyyat while under debt?
ये उसी तरह का सवाल है जैसे बाद लोग कहते हैं जी कि हम तो पूरी तरह इस काबिल नहीं है वसीयत करने के। ऐसी कोई मिसाल नहीं है कि जमात ने कभी किसी मकरूज आदमी को वसीयत में शामिल होने की इजाज़त ना दी हो। ये तो आजकल के ज़माने में तो हर आदमी को, बहुत शाज़ लोग शायद ऐसे रह जाते हैं, किसी ना किसी वक्त कुछ ना कुछ कर्ज लेना पड़ जाता है। इंसान को कोशिश करके वसीयत के निज़ाम में शामिल हो जाना चाहिए, और जमात अहमदिया के अंदर ऐसी बेशुमार मिसालें हैं कि खुदा ताला के फजल से बाज़ ऐसे लोग थे जो बाज़ मकरूज थे, लेकिन जब उन्होंने जमात अहमदिया के अल्लाह ताला के फजल से निज़ाम जमात के चंदों में शमूलियत इख्तियार की, तहरीक दीद में, वक्फ़े दीद में, और बेशुमार अल्लाह ताला के फजल से रहमत की राहें हैं सारी, तो इसमें कोई हरज नहीं कि एक मकरूज आदमी भी वसीयत के निज़ाम में शामिल हो जाए। लेकिन अगर कोई ऐसी गैर मामूली बात है तो निज़ाम जमात खुद देख लेगा। लेकिन मेरा अपना ज़ाती ख्याल ये है कि एक इंसान को इस वजह से पीछे नहीं रहना चाहिए कि मैं तो मकरूज हूँ। बाकी अगर और कोई साहब इस बारे में कुछ मजीद रहनुमाई करना चाहें तो मेरा बेहतर होगी।
Jazakallah Rabbi Sahib, I think you answered it very well. Jazakallah. Mansoor Sahib, one of the questions on the chat is, if a Musi gifts his property to his children, will he have to pay Wassiyyat on it before gifting it? What if he just passes away without gifting it? Will the family have to pay Wassiyyat on it?
Yes. So if it's your property and you're the Musi and you want to gift the property to your children, you're entitled to do so, but you need to pay Wassiyyat on it. So in other words, you're selling that property, therefore you're paying Wassiyyat on that property before, as and when you can gift it to your children, you can do it that way. If you pass away and it falls into your children's inheritance as such, then it's still part of your assets, therefore Wassiyyat is payable on that.
Jazakumullah. We have a number of questions online, so I'll be turning to these. So Saab, one of the questions is, why do we not have a proper Bahishti Maqbara in the UK, just like we have in India and Pakistan?
As I said, I am not best placed to answer this question. So I will honestly not be able to answer this question, that why don't we have a graveyard for Musian in the UK. There is one, more than one in Pakistan now. In Rabwa, as I said, 2 parts of Bahishti Maqbara are there. The old one is now filled up, so they bought new land near Aqsa Mosque, and it is going there. And there is one in Qadian as well. And I'm sorry, I don't have an answer to this question, so I will not try to fluff my way around.
So just to comment then, the Musian sections we have in our graveyards, they do not count as Bahishti Maqbara, or how is that?
It is, as I said, it is difficult for me to answer, as I said, is in terms of this. So therefore, I think I would leave it there.
No problem. We'll pick up this question, inshallah. Have it on further forums once we get clarification. But Jazakallah. Another question, this is again in regards to burial. So the question is, why do we have to pay burial costs in this country? As in Pakistan, it is free of charge. If we have to pay, then is it permissible, or is it possible we can pay this cost in installments in our lifetime?
Yes. So there are 2 parts to this question. So the second part is easier to answer, which means that you can pay in advance the burial costs, and the Jamaat can keep it as an amanat, and it would be there. The first part is, why do we have to pay the cost, whereas in Pakistan and India they don't? I may not be absolutely right, but my understanding of this is that these are the costs related to the council. The money is taken by the council for this. And you can pay this in advance to the Jamaat, and Jamaat can keep it, and Jamaat can then do it. Anyone who is unable to pay the costs or who wants any assistance with the cost, Jamaat, in my knowledge, has always paid it in the UK. And others can vouch for that or may have other knowledge as well.
Jazakallah Sahib. Mansoor Sahib, I'll turn to you for this another finance question. The question is, I have contributed a certain amount into a pension pot and decide to withdraw the total amount in my pension pot in cash. How do I pay Chanda on this? I'm assuming he's saying, how do I pay Wassiyyat Chanda on this?
Okay. All right, so a bit of a difficult question. All right, 2 parts to this. In the UK, there's 2 types of pension. One is a defined benefit pension, and one is a defined contribution pension. The defined benefit pension is the old standard that most of us would have had in our lifetime, which is one where the company actually pays a pension into a pension fund on your behalf. And then as you reach a certain age, you're allowed to take certain payments out of that. If the company is paid in, then you should be paying full Wassiyyat on that as you take it out. So if you're taking out cash, you need to pay your Wassiyyat on that. That's I think pretty clear. The defined contribution is where you're actually paying money into a pension, and it's your money that you've paid in, and it will grow at a certain rate. And then if you want to take that money out, I think that there's rules, Wassiyyat rules that are available online, and if you look at them, I think it's in the 50s. I think Rule 55, 56, something like that. The rules talk about insurance and how you receive insurance payouts. And if you follow the same logic there, for a defined contribution pension where you've paid money in, I think you end up paying net of the money that you've paid in. You're paying on the profit that you've received on it when you take your money, when you take your pension out. So the rules don't cover each and every eventuality for each and every country. So maybe it's best to get some further guidance on this from Secretary Wassiyyat from Pakistan, maybe even. But for the pension, if you've received it and it's been part of your package that you haven't paid into, then you're liable to pay for it. Your family's not, though. If you pass away and your family will receive a pension, there's no Wassiyyat on that as such. If you've paid into a pension through a DC arrangement, then I think you can look to take off the payments that you made in, and you pay on the amount that you've received on the way out. But again, that needs clarification. It's not black and white in the rules.
Jazakallah, Masroor Sahib. It was a very technical question as well, but Jazakallah, thank you so much for answering. Fazil Sahib, I'll turn to you for this question that's coming online. The question is, if someone doesn't have any property, then what will be Wassiyyat? What will be the Wassiyyat amount in that case?
बात यह है कि हज़रत मसीह मऊद अलैहिस्सलाम ने तो बाज़ सूरतों में ऐसे लोगों को भी वसीयत के बहिश्ती मक़बरा में दफन होने की इजाज़त दी या उसमें शामिल किया है कि जो मुत्तकी, परहेज़गार और शरायत को एक तकवा की जो शरायत है उनको पूरा करने वाला है। तो निज़ाम जमात या खलीफा वक्त बाज़-औक़ात ऐसे फैसले करके ऐसे लोगों को बहिश्ती मक़बरा में दफन होने की इजाज़त दे देते हैं। लेकिन जहाँ तक इस बात का ताल्लुक है कि किसी की जायदाद नहीं है, तो ये कोई बराह रास्त ऐसी रोक नहीं है। आखिर कुछ ना कुछ तो उसकी आमद हो रही होगी, तो इसलिए जो उसका जैसे बाज़ मस्तूरात हैं वो अपनी माहाना जो उनका जेब खर्च होता है उस एक मुकर्रर करके, या तालिब इल्म है वो उसके ऊपर हर महीने कुछ ना कुछ अदायगी करते चले जाते हैं और ऐसे लोगों की वसीयत भी मंजूर हो जाती है। इसलिए इसका स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड आंसर तो ये है कि आपकी जो भी इस वक्त सूरत हाल है उसको सामने रखते हुए आपको रिसाला वसीयत पढ़ के वसीयत फॉर्म फिल कर देना चाहिए और अपने जो भी वसीयत है, आखिर इंसान कुछ ना कुछ तो खाना खाता है ना, तो एक मुअय्यन रकम मुकर्रर करके उस पर माहाना अदायगी और वसीयत हो सकती है अगर जमात, निज़ाम जमात आपकी वसीयत को कबूल कर लेती है। तो मेरे नज़दीक तो ये ऐसी बराह रास्त रोक नहीं है कि कोई जिसकी जो कोई ऐसी जायदाद नहीं तो वो वसीयत नहीं कर सकता।
Jazakallah, Murabbi Sahib. We've just picked up a request if the answers can also be summarized in Urdu as well. So we'll try to do that if the panel could kindly do that. However, we are drawing to a close on this forum, and I'll go to Sadasab on this last question. This is essentially a summary of what we've presented in the beginning. The question is, what is the process if I'd like to join Blessed Scheme of Wassiyyat? So what is the process of joining, and how long does it take to get accepted?
I think the process of joining Wassiyyat is, first of all, is reading. So first of all, my advice would be to read the book Al-Wassiyyat or the will in English, whichever language, or you can listen to the audio if somebody is not able to read. And then be clear in your mind that you want to join this blessed scheme. Once you have read the writings of the promised Messiah ﷺ in terms of his will, and then once you are clear that you want to do that, you then need to get a form from the Wassiyyat department. You need to fill that form in, give in your details of what your earnings or assets are at this time, and then you get it obviously signed from your local president, and then that goes on along with witnesses to the Wassiyyat department. From the Wassiyyat department, it will be sent to Pakistan, and then there's a process in which it takes roughly, it could take a year, sometimes longer, by the time that the acceptance would come back and you would be issued with a Wassiyyat number, which will be a number essentially which every one of us would have in terms of having that Wassiyyat. Initially, you would also need to pay a small amount of money. Similarly, once you have filled in the form and sent your Wassiyyat off, you are at liberty to start paying the Chanda Wassiyyat, which as a minimum is 1/10 of your monthly income. It can go down or go high as much as up to 1/3. So the maximum amount of Wassiyyat that you can do would be this. And other than that, as I said, you can, or somebody may opt that once my Wassiyyat is accepted, I will then start paying Chanda. That is acceptable as well.
Jazakallah sir. Would you summarize that in Urdu as well?
Yes. So सवाल ये था कि वसीयत की स्कीम ज्वाइन करने का प्रोसेस क्या है. तो इसके लिए पहले तो अर्ज है कि अपने जहन में इसकी तैयारी करने के लिए रसाला अल वसीयत को एक से ज़ायद दफ़ा अच्छी तरह से पढ़ें. जब उसकी अच्छी तरह से समझ आ जाए और आपकी अच्छी तरह से इस तरफ को तबीयत मान ले कि ये इस स्कीम में आपने शामिल होना है, तो उसके बाद आप वसीयत डिपार्टमेंट से वसीयत फॉर्म लेंगे. उस वसीयत फॉर्म को फिल करते हैं, उस पर सदर जमात के भी दस्तखत होते हैं, उस पर जो विटनेस हैं उनके भी दस्तखत होते हैं, और वो फॉर्म उसके बाद वसीयत डिपार्टमेंट भिजवाया जाता है, जहाँ से वो मरकज़ रब्वा भिजवाया जाता है. और तकरीबन रफली बास कम टाइम भी लगता है, कुछ बाज़ दफ़ा चंद माह लगते हैं, लेकिन इट कैन टेक इवन अप टू 1 साल भी लग सकता है तकरीबन, जिसके बाद आपको वसीयत नंबर इशू हो जाएगा. जिस वक्त आप फॉर्म भिजवा देते हैं, आप उसके बाद से चंदा वसीयत अपनी आमद पर अदा कर सकते हैं. लेकिन अगर कोई शख्स चाहे कि वो इंतज़ार करेगा कि जब तक मेरा वसीयत नंबर इशू नहीं होता, तो वो इंतज़ार भी कर सकता है.
Jazakallah sir. That draws this question answer session to a close. Alhamdulillah, we had some very good questions. Unfortunately, we weren't able to answer all of them. So my apologies to the viewers, but the aim is to have these forums on a regular basis. We will inshallah answer more of your questions as well. But my thank you and jazakallah to the distinguished team of panelists for answering these questions. Jazakumullah, may Allah bless you. I will now turn to the Majlis, Ansarullah, Dr. Ijaz Rahman Sahib, to please give his closing remarks and lead us in dua as well.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The only thing I would like to add in, I think you people have already heard about Nizam-e-Wassiyat, that I think we must remember that this is something we do voluntarily for the sake of ourselves and for Allah the Almighty alone. I know there are many technical questions which people would have, like the one asked on pensions, like, people have many questions in their mind. My only humble submission and request to all my brothers who are listening or who want to join this blessed scheme is, it is between you and Allah the Almighty. What you consider to be your income, you pay chanda on that. What you consider to be your asset at the end, because you will have endless questions. I've been through this in multiple forums over a number of years, in which people would go on to business properties and details. We are not talking about income tax. We are talking about something which we want to sacrifice for ourselves. And for those of us who are worried about our children, all of us are, but we must remember we are doing this for our own self. The only thing I'm taking with me when I am leaving this world is the good deeds that I have done or the sacrifices that I have made. Whatever I leave behind, others would spend that money as they will and as they please. Whether they do good deeds or they don't do good deeds with that money, that's up to them. I have no control over that. So in terms of doing wasiyat, I would also advise people that if they are worried in terms of that once they pass away, the people who are left behind will not be paying their wasiyat, it is a good idea, particularly in the UK, to make a will as well, in which you bequeath 1/10 of your estate to the Jamaat. So therefore, it won't cause any problems at the end as well. And as it says in the Holy Quran, you cannot attain righteousness till you spend out of what you love. And whatever you spend, Allah knows it best. So I think with this, I would end. I would urge all my brothers, particularly Safedom Ansar, which is between 40 and 55 years of age, that as per wishes of Wassiyyat Sayyidullah Ta'ala bin Asil Aziz, if they have not joined this blessed scheme, they should join. The aim of the scheme is to join as early as possible. Therefore, all your life you can be part of this blessed scheme and continue to get the blessings from this. I think in the small clip which was shown at the beginning of the address of Wassiyyat Sayyidullah Ta'ala bin Asil Aziz to Majlis Ansarullah Ijtima, he mentioned this as well. That it is the early age that you do that is brilliant. If you're going to do it right at the end of your end, when your end is near, nobody's saying that wasiyat will not be accepted, but obviously I think those who do it early and continue to go along with that would partake from more blessings. With these few words, I would thank all of you once again for arranging this excellent forum, and I hope that there may be many more. I know we may not have answered many questions which people may have, but please, if people can continue to send questions, we will seek guidance on those questions, so in future forums we are able to answer them better. Please join me in a silent prayer. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.